Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Esong and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is the next video in our DevOps playlist, and today we'll be looking at multi-stage Docker builds, and we will also look at how to properly prepare an application for containerization before you even write a Docker file. So we are going to walk through what we must clarify with the developer. Then we containerize a real React application step by step. So we are going to start with running the application locally first. So this video is deliberately one level higher than the previous one. So in the last video, we learned how to containerize a simple a simple static application. So that was very intentional. But in real projects, you rarely containerize raw static files. So most of the time, you are dealing with build systems. You are dealing with build systems, frameworks, and development workflows. So today, we are moving up. So before we touch multi-stage builds, I want to fix something very important. A lot of DevOps engineers jump straight to Docker files, but this is a mistake. Containerization does not start with Docker file. Containerization does not start with Docker file. All right. So it starts with understanding how the application works or how the application runs. So now let us look at prerequisites for containerization. All right. So before you write a single Docker instruction, the first thing you must do is sit down with the developer. Now, not figuratively, you need to sit down like literally. So you must understand the application, because your job is not to make Docker run. All right. Your job is to make the application run reliably inside a container. So the very first question you must ask is, how do you run this application? There is literally no shame in asking questions. So the first question you should ask your developer is, how do you run this application? So this question will help you understand what the application needs, how the application runs across different environments. So the developer should show you, or should be able to show you, the exact command they run, the build steps. They should also point out the port the application listens on. They should also be able to point out the environment variables that are required, what API URLs, all right, are configured. They should also be able to tell you if this application talks to an external service. So again, you must clearly confirm what port the application listing on. Now, for a React application, development server usually runs on port 3000. These are common questions to ask. Production builds itself differently. If you don't understand this, your container will run, but nothing will be reachable. How about environment variables? You must identify required variables. You must also identify optional variables. And you must also identify default variables. So this matters a whole lot when containerizing an application. So understand that React environment, if you are dealing with a React application, understand that React environment variables rather are usually injected at build time, okay, and not at runtime. So how about API endpoints and external dependencies? Like I said, you must also ask, where does this front end send request to? All right. What is the correct API? Is it a local host? Is it a dev API? Is it a staging API? You must understand what is configurable. Now, for the build requirement, you must also know which node version is required. Node version. You must also try to know the difference between NPM or YAN or PNPM. You must also try to find out whether there is a custom build script, because your container must match all of this. Again, you must also try to find out the output of the build. Now, for a React application, it is usually a directory such as build or dist. So this output is what you will ship and not the source code. So this is the real prerequisite. You understand the runtime and build model of the application, and not Docker file itself. So now that we understand the preparation step, let us move into the topic for this video. So what is a multi-stage Docker build? So a multi-stage Docker build is a way to use more than one base image. You use more than one base image inside a single Docker file. All right. Now, each stage is responsible for one part of the process. So usually what happens is that one stage builds the application, and another stage runs the application. So the idea is very simple. You separate your build environment from the runtime environment. So this is extremely important for front-end frameworks and compiled applications, because build environments are usually very heavy, but runtime environments can be very small. So let us be very practical. Our reference for today's video is a React application. So a typical React build environment needs one node. Node is the runtime. It also needs NPM or YAN. So this is the package manager for Node. Then it also needs build tools and, of course, dependencies. But then, after the build finishes, you do not need the node anymore. So you only need the static files, which are usually in the build folder or dist folder. So conceptually, it looks like this. In stage 1, you do what? You install dependencies. You also build the application in stage 1. Then in stage 2, you copy the build output. And the build output is what you serve using a lightweight server. So this is all. So we can now move into the practical session. So we are going to create a React application from scratch. So for you to be able to work with a React application, you must have Node and npm install. So to install Node, if you're on Linux system, you can simply do sudo apt install node.js, and you can also install npm from here. All right. So when you do, then you can verify that your node is installed with using the node -version command. So it's going to tell you your the version of the installed node. So let us also confirm if npm is installed. So I'll use npm -version. All right. So it's going to tell me the version of the npm that is installed on my local machine. If you are on a Windows machine, you can install Node from you can go to the npm documentation, then follow the steps, install node.js, and also install npm. So I'm going to drop the link of this installation in the video description. All right. So now, how do we create a React application? So to create the React application, we simply use the command npx. We simply use the command npx. So npx is a package tool or a package runner tool that comes bundled with npm. All right. So to create a React application, we simply we use the npx package manager. So npx. The next argument is create React application. Create React app. All right. Then the name you want to give to the application. So I can simply say my app. So I'll hit enter. So this can literally take some time. So you wait for it depending on your internet connectivity to finish up. So it's going to create a React application in /home/Sami, which is my home directory, then the React application. So I'm going to pause this video. When the application is done creating, then I'll resume the video. Then we continue. All right. So our React application, we are done creating our React application. All right. So if I do ls, this is our React application, my app. All right. So let us go into our React application, cd my app. So if I do ls, so this is what a React application looks like. So you are going to see package.json, package lock.json, public, src, and the node modules. So remember our very first step of containerization. Let us run this application locally first. All right. So to run this application locally, I'm going to use VS Code so that we all see what happens beneath the hood. All right. So this is a structure of our React application. Now, to start or to run this application locally, the very first thing we will do is to what? To build this application. The very first thing we are going to do is to build the application. Remember that we built the application, or we install dependencies, build the application, then we can now serve the build output using a lightweight server. So let us do everything locally. So the very first thing is to install dependency. How do we install dependency? We use npm install. So this is going to install our dependencies. And where is our dependency? Our dependency is in the package.json. All right. Our dependency is in the package.json file. All right. So we are done installing our dependency. So before we continue, package.json file in React is a file that contains the metadata for your project. All right, so it lists out dependencies. So these are the dependencies for this application. While the package.log.json is a file generated by npm to ensure consistent dependency versions. So just like the name implies, it simply locks down the exact version of dependencies and sub-dependencies. So it ensures reproducibility of your project environment. So we are done with our first step, which is to install dependency. So the next thing we are going to do is to build our application. So to build application, we use the command npm run build. So this is going to run the build script defined in the package.json. All right. So typically it's used to bundle and minify code for production. All right. So this is going to create a build directory with a compiled asset. So you give it some time and our build is going to be complete in no time. All right, guys, we are done building our application. All right, so let me clear this out. So if I do ls, so this is now our build file. All right, this is now our build file. So our build file comprises of our build artifact. All right. So let us start this application locally. To start this application locally, you can simply use npm start. So what npm start do is to run the start script defined in the package.json file. So it is typically used to start a development server. So it launches the application in development mode. So if I hit enter, it is going to start a React server for us in a development mode. So you give it a second and our server will start. All right. So it's currently starting the development server and it will automatically bring us to the web page. All right. So if you notice, this is serving from our local host. So the local host is your machine. All right. And this is the React port 3000. So guys, this is now our React application. All right. So let us take this a little bit further and do some changes. So I am back to my application. All right. So I will come to src. So I'll come to src. So in React, the src directory is where you find the main application code. Let me stop this development server first. All right. So the src directory is where you find the main application code. So, and the main application code can be found in the app.js. So I'm simply going to edit this guy out. So if you check, you see edit code src.app, just what we had here. Edit src.app.js, save to reload. So I'm going to edit that out. So I'm simply going to say my name is Samuel and I am learning React and multi-stage Docker build. All right, so I'll save this, and again, I am going to rebuild my application. So we give it some time and rebuild, then we start the development server again. Then from there, we can now write a Docker file to serve this application. So we'll give it some time and we'll come back to writing a Docker file. All right, guys, so our second build is ready, and let us start a development server again. So we'll do npm start, all right, so that we'll see the new content of our React application. All right, so our React server is starting, and in no time we should see it on our browser. All right, guys, this is the second build we had. So we are done. So now that we have seen that our application works very well locally, it is now time to containerize our application. So I'll stop our development server, and the next thing I'll do is to write a Docker file for my React application. So I'm going, as usual, I'm going to create the Docker file in the root of my application. All right. So again, I'll call it Docker file. So we can now start generating our Docker file. So from the very first one is our base image. So we are still going to use an Alpine Linux that already has Node installed. All right. So I'll use Node. So since this is a multi-stage Docker file, all right, okay, I'll come back to this. Let me erase this out. So the very first line means we start a new stage and we use a node image. We name, let me name this image build, or let me name this stage build. All right, so we start a new stage, we use a node image, we name this image build, and we will later refer to it by the name. The name is build. All right. So again, why are we using Alpine? We are using Alpine because it is small and it is very fast to pull. So the next thing is for us to set our working directory. So this creates and switches into the /app directory inside the container. So from now on, all our commands run from here. So the next thing will be for us to copy dependencies. Remember that when we install dependencies, we are simply installing dependencies from package.json and package.lock.json. when we were dealing with our local environment. So I'm simply going to copy. All right. I'll first of all copy package.json into the /app directory before we go ahead to copy the full source code. All right. So since I'm copying these two guys, so I should put asterisk here. So this simply means copy everything that starts with package. All right. So now that we've done that, the next thing we'll okay. Why we have this is because dependency installation can be expensive and Docker catches layers. So if your source code changes but your dependencies do not, this layer can be reused. All right. So we use this for optimization purpose. So the next thing will be for us to install the dependency. So we'll use the run command, run npm install. So this installs all the dependencies required to build this application, and this happens inside the build stage only. So now that we have installed the dependencies, the next thing will be for us to copy the entire project. All right. So we'll copy the entire project into the /app directory. And now we can now run our npm run build. So this runs the React build, and this generates a production ready bundle. All right. Usually inside a folder, just like what we saw /build. All right. So this is now our first stage. So at this point, the build stage is complete. Now we now have a compiled static file. All right. So we can now start stage 2. So from our previous video, we saw how we serve static files on Nginx. So we are also going to use that approach. All right. So our second stage, we are also going to use Alpine with Nginx installed. All right. So this is a very small and stable runtime image, just like what we saw in our last video. So it is perfect for serving static files. So the next thing will be to copy our build output. All right. We are going to copy our build output into the Nginx webroot directory. All right. So I will copy from build from the first stage. So it copies files from the previous stage. And what file is it copying? /build. And what was the working directory? /app. All right. So it's going to copy it into user /share /nginx/html. So it does not copy from our local machine, but instead it only copies the build output. So the final image does not contain node, it does not contain npm, and it does not contain the source code, only the static file. So the next thing will be for us to do what? Document our port, expose 80. So again, this exposes this document the listening port. All right. So we can now start Nginx in the foreground with this command, Nginx-g daemon off. So this is the multi-stage Docker file. So just like what we saw, the first stage builds, this stage builds, all right, and the second stage serves the application or runs the application. So I'm going to save this, and we can now go ahead and do what? And build our image. So I'll do docker build -t. I can call this React multi-stage. Again, the build context. So Docker is going to execute this build, execute the runtime stage, and only keep the final stage as the resulting image. So I'll hit enter. And we'll wait for our build to complete. Sorry about that. This is build and not built. All right. So this is going to start our build, and we'll give it some time, and our build should be ready. So I'm going to pause this video and resume when the build file is ready. All right, so our build has completed. All right, so if I do Docker images, all right, Docker images. All right, so I can see React multi-stage. Okay. All right, so please let me clear this out. Sorry. All right, so our image is ready. If I do, so let us start a container from this image. So it will be Docker run -d -p, okay, -d -p, then /8080. You can choose to use port 80 and it still works very well. Then what is the name of my image? React multi-stage. So I'll copy this guy and paste it here. All right, guys. So I will hit enter, and our container should be up and running in no time. All right, so let us confirm if our container is running. Docker ps, and our container was started 10 seconds ago, and React multi-stage. Okay, so guys, if I come to my browser, and how do I access the container? Localhost. Let me use the correct path. HTTP localhost. Then what is the port? 8080. So guys, our React application is here, or our container is here. Our container is here. So let us go over a brief summary to summarize what we have done here. So we understand that before containerizing any application, you must sit with the developer to understand how the application runs locally, what ports it listens on, and if there are things like environment variables, APIs, and how it is built, it should take all of this into consideration. And we've also seen multi-stage Docker builds in action. So it allows you to separate the build environment from runtime environment, and we have demonstrated using this using a real React application. All right, so in the next video, we are going to see some orchestration concepts and how container images are actually deployed and managed at scale. So again, if you are new here and you found value with this video, please do well to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and also share with your friends. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.